What's up, everybody? Welcome back into another episode of the Run Pure Sports MMA show. I'm Draftcheat here, joined by Titletown, Joey Werk. We're discussing UFC 261 in Jacksonville. Fans in the stands, 3 title fights. It's going to be a good Saturday night, boys. Joey, what's going on, man?
Yeah, what's going on? Happy to be back. Obviously, we're out of Las Vegas. We got a full crowd in attendance, 3 title fights. Everybody made weight. I'm ready to go.
Title, what's going on, dude?
Oh, it's going to be a fun one. I love the 3 title fights. I love the fights we have on tap, but I mean, the fans back in the stands, that's by far the best. I know a lot of people that joined Run Pure that just started watching MMA during pandemic and stuff haven't really seen MMA with the fans back too. It brings a whole new dimension to the game. I can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, initially, like UFC, back over a year ago now. I think they came back almost a year ago now. Sports got shut down, of course, and Uncle Dana and UFC, they were kind of the first sport back. They made it work. Of course, they got criticism as they're always going to do, and they'll get criticism for this one for being indoors with a full capacity crowd. But they don't care. And initially, I really enjoyed the initial fights with no fans, and you could hear all the strikes land. You could hear the coaches talking. There was a lot of appeal to that. At least for me, it kind of wore off over this last year. I'm ready to see it. A rowdy crowd, and certainly, if you're going to a full capacity indoor crowd, you're probably a little bit of a rowdy person to begin with. So I think the fans are going to be rocking tonight. Joe, your thoughts on just kind of the last year in UFC and how that's all gone down?
Yeah, it favors some people, doesn't favor others. Some people thrive off that crowd. Others, rather be able to hear the cornermen, and even like, for example, who's the guy that was on the Cowboys? And now he's fighting. Remember
Greg Hardy?
Yeah, Greg Hardy. You remember when he was fighting and he heard Daniel Cormier telling him what to do as the announcer. He quickly changed his game plan and eventually won the fight because he heard the announcer telling him what to do. Like, that's out the door now. But the fans is definitely a better aspect. They have their favorites and whatnot, so some people are going to get booed, some are not. But I'm ready.
Yeah, we do have a number of fighters of Asian descent on the card. I've heard some people speculating that there could be some boos from the Florida crowd, given what might be the potential politics of UFC fans in there tonight.
I got a question for. We'll throw it out both. It's more of just a topic. Is this the crowd going to finally help the judges maybe make a decision that's right for once? Like, are they finally not going to mess? Because I saw someone. Like 3 in a row yesterday or last week. I have never seen 3, and I thought they were pretty clear. I thought it was pretty clear that the 3 were supposed to go the way they were supposed to go. Munoz, I thought Romanov lost for sure rounds 1 and 3, and then Pena. She just took the back, and I thought she completely lost too. She backpacked and did nothing. I know I was on the other side in all 3 fights, so maybe it was more biased looking at it, but I rewatched them too, and they seem bad. Are the fans finally going to make the judges a little better?
I would think they would make them worse, to be honest.
Can't get worse. Can't get worse.
I understand where you're coming from, but just overall, I would think no fan. What's your theory here, Tuttle? You're saying the judges will know who's winning by the cheers of the crowd? Is that what we're going with?
if anything, I'm saying, they've been as bad as possible as we've seen. There's nothing that could be worse. Maybe if the fans cheering and it's pretty obvious, like Romanov getting booed, you would have been getting booed and booed and booed if he pulled that this week. And then, I don't know if they gave him round 1 or 3 or whatever, but I'm just hoping that somehow it can't be worse. We know that. Maybe the fans will help it somehow.
Maybe they should judge by kind of a wisdom of the crowds. Everyone in attendance gets a little. They can vote on their phone who won the fight.
Hold something up.
Majority rules. That's the winner of the fight. It would be probably more accurate than the judges anyway.
Yeah, they need to do something. The PFL yesterday had really good judging, and they had a new algorithm. I know they got into place too, but it's just crazy how the UFC is such a good sport, so much money. And you got 3 guys that who knows if they even watch fights or not, but they just ruin it.
Yeah,
so
the judges are not like related to the UFC at all, right? They don't really have any say. It's the commissions. Is that right, Joey?
Yeah, it's probably based per state that you're in.
Yeah,
so we should see some different judges because we're out of Vegas here.
Yeah,
Florida sucks too.
Yeah. So, but who knows?
is what it is. Can't obviously control.
Don't let it go to the judges. That's what you can control.
Yeah. Yep. All right, we got 13 fights on this card. We'll break them all down, starting with in order. Starting with the earliest fights, we'll get to the 3 main fights at the top of the hour, or however long it takes us to get through this card. We do have a number of debuting fighters today, so we're grinding the tape, and in kind of smaller organizations, which is always a little bit difficult because the level of competition is just not the same. But anyway, we'll do our best here. First fight that we're going to discuss, first fight on the card, Ariane Carnelassi, a -220-ish favorite over Liang. We'll go right to you, Joey. Again, for those of you new to the show, typically Joey's going to be giving his thoughts kind of on the betting angles, title on the DFS stuff, and I'll throw in my 2 cents when I find it appropriate to do so. So, Joey, Carnelassi and Liang here. Carnelassi, a pretty good favorite. She looks strong to me, I guess, in the MMA, in the weigh-in photos, if you want. I don't know a ton about these two fighters. You probably know more than me, so give us the breakdown here.
Yeah, so Vegas is definitely expecting a finish here with under 1.5 is a +110. So it's really they don't think this fight's going long. I know Liang enters, this is her first UFC fight. She's on a 4-fight win streak, all via finish, and all of her 15 pro wins are in the first round. She's known for getting the fight to the ground, trying to lock in a submission, whether it be from on top or even on bottom. She's a threat for an armbar, heel hook, choke, and she's fought some good competition, including a couple UFC fighters, Maria Agapova, Lilian Jujua, my girl. But she has shown a lot of question marks on the feet. Carnelassi, as you mentioned, is jacked. Holy hell. She did fight Angie Hill last time out, lost via doctor stoppage, a fight in which Angie basically dominated. Don't get me wrong, I'm pretty high on Angie Hill. Past that, her strength of her schedule is somewhat in question. She only fought 3 fighters with a winning record past that. She has solid takedown defense, and Liang completely outclassed. She'll completely outclass Liang on the feet. All in all, I think this fight is pretty clear cut. If Liang can't get a takedown and this fight doesn't go to the ground, Carnelassi should finish her via KO. If it goes to the ground, Liang is live for a submission or stoppage at any time. So, I mean, this is a low-level women's MMA fight. I'm going to pass, but I'm somewhat interested in, start round 2 prop bet.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, assuming that you're right, and I'm sure you are, about kind of the breakdown of the styles of these two fighters, where Liang wants to get it to the ground, get a submission, Carnelassi wants to kind of stand and bang. Just given the stature of the two fighters, like Carnelassi looks super strong and is also much shorter, 3 or 4 inches shorter, which I don't know, maybe I'm wrong here, but I would assume that would kind of help her in takedown defense, right? She's lower to the ground, lower center of gravity. She seems like she's probably the stronger fighter. I mean, you kind of understand why this is a -220 line here. I kind of like Carnelassi to keep this one standing and throw some bombs. I mean, like you said, Vegas kind of thinks this one might be quick. If it is, it's a submission or a knockout, probably one way or the other. So I kind of like this one from DFS title. Carnelassi, I mean, I could see this one starting out with maybe not a must-own fighter on a 13-fight card, but possibly, right? If she's able to land a bunch of bombs and finish her off in the first round, you could see it going down that way. So your thoughts here on these two titles from a DFS perspective? We've got Carnelassi 8,600, Liang 7,600. So both fighters fairly affordable.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to like this fight. Carnelassi, I mean, she's a grown man. If that's ever a sentence, she's a grown man. But I mean, at the end of the day, if you see the weigh-in pictures, she is. Liang, her path is to get it to the ground, get a submission win. But I just think Carnelassi is going to overpower her in every single aspect of this fight. Like, if Liang tries to go in for a takedown, yes, if she gets a trip or something, you're going to go down. But you're not going to overpower Carnelassi in the clinch. So I could even see Carnelassi somehow getting her own takedown. I don't know if she wants that or if Liang pulls guard or something. But if Carnelassi gets on top and just hammers away, I don't see Liang having any answer for that. It's hard to submit someone when you're getting popped in the face every second. Carnelassi just has a massive advantage pretty much everywhere it goes for me. The path to Liang is a submission, like we said. Maybe Carnelassi, I mean, we see how much muscle she's carrying around. The later this fight goes, if it hits the third round, I assume Carnelassi is probably going to be gassed, trying to use all of her energy to finish it earlier. I think that's where Liang would have her path to victory too. The longer this fight goes, the more it benefits her. But I think Carnelassi gets it done in first round, second round. It's just too much. I mean, this is like Andre Drummond against Poku in basketball. If we're talking, I know we got a lot of basketball people. I mean, Poku's skin and bones. Drummond's a bigger. I know he's not. He's giving up like you said. Carnelossi's giving up like 3 to 4 inches, but I don't think that plays a factor in here really. Liang doesn't want to be on the feet. Give me all the Carnelassi, and we got a good price tag, like you said. 8,600 is a big discount from the top tier, and then $18 on FanDuel. I'm fine with too. If you get a finish for that price tag to start off the night, you're definitely looking good. So I like Carnelassi a lot in the spot.
Yeah, I will mention I know Carnelassi lost that first fight to Hill, but she was active in that fight. She landed a lot of strikes. Like, she's going to be throwing in this one. So, I think potentially, even if it goes the distance, she could land 100+ significant strikes. I don't think that's out of the question. So I do feel pretty good about Carnelassi here, both from a betting and DFS perspective.
And another thing. Sorry, go ahead.
You're good.
Finish.
You're good.
I was just gonna say, Carnelassi fought Angela Hill last time out. Angela Hill's levels above Liang. I mean, Angela Hill's a top 10 fighter, probably even better. Like, you don't want to fight Angela Hill. She knows what she's doing. She's a very good striker. This is definitely a step down in competition than what she saw last time out. It just all sets up right, but I mean, it's a low-level woman's fight. So, I mean, there is definitely – it's not someone you just want to lock in 100% first fight of the night and your night be over if it doesn't go your way.
Yeah. MMA is weird like that, where, like, you can fade the fight and your night is over if they – if for GPPs, if they just crush, or you can play the wrong fighter and it can – it's
tough.
Sometimes I go to the giant parlay if I lose the first fight as a way to, like, try to get a big score, get the sweat on. So it's always a good time. We'll move on to the next site. Before we do, please hit the like, hit the subscribe. If you're here, if you're watching, you're probably enjoying this free content. We bring this to you every single pay-per-view card for the UFC. Of course, we've got free baseball, NBA shows 5 days a week, 7 days a week, really. But Monday through Friday, of course, I'm on there. So please, it really does help us out, bringing you all this free content. And Joey, we'll move on quickly. I got to give you a shout out on the betting side for MLB. You are absolutely crushing it night after night. I think you had another sweep last night. Is that right? 3-0. I've just been kind of blind tailing your bets because you've been on fire. So yeah, tell the people a little about the betting side over at Run Pure Sports.
Yeah. So, we do basically, we have a sheet, an official play sheet that we put fully tracked bets on every night. Last night I did go 3-0. JJ added one more baseball play and it won as well. So we swept the board 4-0 in MLB last night, 7-3 last 10, about 10-5 last 15. And then I'm also doing videos every Tuesday night and Wednesday night on the Run Pure Bets YouTube. So if you're not subscribed, go over there, hit the subscribe button. And we're giving out on Tuesday night, I just do one free play. And then Wednesday night, I do a full run through of the card the next day for all the games. And then otherwise, I'm in the Discord talking to the members at all times. They could ask me a question on any game and whatnot. But yeah, I've been digging really deep into baseball and it's been working out in our favor. So I'm happy that our team could win.
Absolutely. You guys both have your DFS plays and bets, official bets for this UFC card up at runpuresports.com. You can get all of our content, NBA, MLB, PGA, MMA, of course, both betting and DFS-wise, just $100 a month, all-inclusive price. Promo code RPSHeater25 will get you 25% off your first monthly payment. Join us if you want to get into the green. All right, let's go to the next fight on the card, Jeffrey Molina and Liang Aori. This one basically a toss-up, minus 110, kind of on both sides here. I don't have a ton of analysis for this fight, but listen, if you've been following the DFS drama, I'll tell you this. Jeffrey Molina's nickname is El Jefe. So I personally can't pick him. So I'm going to leave the analysis to you guys. Joey, I know you might not be into it. Title, I got a smile out of you. I know you know what I'm talking about. So I'm going with Aori on this one, but it's purely based on the narrative. Joey, give us some better analysis than that.
So it's really hard to find much tape on Aori.
Exactly. I kind of gave up.
Yeah, he is the Mongolian murderer, as his
versus El Jefe. Come on, I mean this is easy.
And he definitely has a clear advantage in experience. He did fight Kai Kara France, who was a name that we should know, back in 2017. A fight he did lose via decision, but he has some good, a decent fighters on his resume. He relies on his jabs, crosses, occasional left hook. He's shown he can wrestle when needed as well, and it may be needed here. Jeff Molina out of Glory MMA and James Krause, possibly Coach of the Year. He hasn't really fought anybody of note to date. He did fight in Contender Series, outstruck his opponent, won via decision, but nothing really crazy on his end. He could have possibly even lost that fight. Molina is very well-rounded. He has a decent stand-up game, likes to throw kicks a lot, very adept on the mat. I think these two are almost equal on the feet, with Molina being a little better. But the question is, who is the better wrestler, basically? Molina has shown he's susceptible to takedowns and struggles from the bottom position. So we will see if Aori goes that route or not. But all in all, I'm off this fight with a slight lean towards Molina.
Title, your thoughts here? It doesn't seem like a great fight to me from a DFS perspective, but curious if you have a different take. Both these fighters right around 8K. Liang 8,200, Molina, and even 8K on DraftKings. Your thoughts here?
Yeah, so this fight's supposed to go to the distance. It's a mid-tier fight. We have a couple other mid-tier fights that are going to get a lot more ownership. So I expect it to be a lower owned fight. And I'm gonna pick. I think Molina's gonna win this fight. I think Molina's better all around, slightly better on the feet. I think he's more technical. I like how he uses his kicks a lot. I expect Aori to just keep moving forward, trying to throw bombs, and I think Molina can piece him up. And I know it's supposed to go to the distance, but I think there's a sneaky potential that Molina can finish this fight at really low ownership. And at 8K, if he does that, I mean, it would be a very, very good start to the night. Sure. He could definitely be optimal there. So I'm going to get overweight on Molina since I do think he wins. I think he's underweight, and I think he has a higher potential to finish this fight than the odds are giving him. As far as Liang, I'm not going to play both sides in this fight just because it's supposed to go to the distance. I mean, you have to make stands on this card, especially with 3 title fights. So I think Molina's the better fighter all around. I'm definitely going to have some of him, hoping that he gets the finish, or at least does get the win. So then Liang is a fade for me. And if he loses, then that's what we want for fades. Nailing the fades is just as important as nailing the plays in cards like this. So give me Molina. I'm sorry, El Jefe, but I think Molina gets it done.
Well, I'll be rooting against you just for the nickname. Next fight on the card, I don't really have much else to add on that one. Rong Zhu and Kazula Vargas. Zhu coming in as a pretty big favorite, making his UFC debut, this one at light heavyweight. Vargas coming off a couple of losses to Da Silva and Weaver. Vargas has been really inactive in those 2 fights, like really low output, but also, not absorbing many strikes. It's kind of has been a little bit passive. Also, Vargas, 15 years the senior of Rong Zhu, which you don't see 2 fighters that are that far apart in age very often. Zhu coming in as minus 230-ish favorite, minus 240 right now. And I think that line might be climbing if I'm correct about that. So yeah, I don't know. I'll throw it to you, Joey, first, but this one seems like a setup for Rong Zhu to kind of take this fight. But interested to hear what you have to say about the styles of these two, because I haven't been really impressed with Vargas's 2 UFC fights so far.
Yeah, Rong's another fighter making his UFC debut, and he's only 21 years old. He has finished 15 of his 17 wins on a 10-fight win streak. He doesn't throw much volume, which is in question, but he's probably the more of the technical striker of the 2 and definitely has better movement. He prefers to keep it at range, pick apart his opponents, but he does switch stances at times, and he definitely has a lot of good power. He has a 2-inch reach advantage and 2-inch height advantage here. Vargas' last fight he was beating up Brock Weaver. He got DQ because of an illegal knee. Okay. He's another guy who isn't really particularly high output. He prefers to stand up as well. He does have some tricky wrestling in his repertoire and likes to grapple against the cage. He could find some success there if that is the game plan. Plus, he is very durable as well. I do think Rong gets it done here. But as his first fight in the UFC versus a guy who's pretty durable, I'm not going to lay the minus 250-ish. If I was to bet this fight, it would be wrong via KO, and that's plus 170-ish.
Yeah, I kind of like that via KO bet. Title, your thoughts here from a DFS perspective? These two fighters, Rongju, kind of expensive, 9,100, the most expensive fighter that we've talked about so far. You can certainly get a discount on Vargas, who is one of the cheaper fighters on this card, coming in at 7,100. Again, Zhu coming in around minus 240 at the moment. Title, DFS thoughts here?
Yeah, so I think the line's probably about right. Wrong coming in, very highly touted prospects, but we've seen stuff like this happen where these 21-year-olds, young kids come in and they're just fighting guys that have been doing this for as long as they've been born. Like TJ Laramie comes into mind against Derek Minner when it's, yeah, he's like minus 300, all this, but these guys have just been there and done that. And with Wrong at 9,100 on a card when we have 3 title favorites that are pretty good size favorites that we like to attack, you need a first round finish pretty much from Wrong, especially because he throws low volume. You need him to get Vargas out of there in the first round and really pay off that price tag and probably hit optimal. I doubt I land on him in too many lineups. I do think he has the clear striking advantage. He has a ton of power in his hands. So, I mean, it could be a first minute. Like, he has the power to put away Vargas with the first punch in the first minute, get the bonus, and be optimal. But is that the likely outcome? I don't think so. As far as Vargas, yeah, I think his game plan needs to be you push it up, you make it a gross, dirty fight, get it on the fence, maybe even get a takedown. I think he could show good top control if he does get this fight to the mat. At 7,100, we need dogs on this card to make the favorites work up above later. I think he's a live dog, and even if it's a 65, 70-point decision at 7,100, if there's not a lot of – I don't have a lot of dogs barking on this card like some. I'm going to have some Vargas and be overweight there. And Wrong, I mean, probably 150 max mainly. If he lands in a 20-entry max or something, I'm fine with it, but it's hard to click that name over USMAN, Valentina, Zhang, stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't see Rongju getting anywhere close to the optimal without an early finish, like you said. Like, he's not gonna. I don't think he's gonna have any like control time in this fight. I don't think he's gonna land a huge amount of volume. So it's gonna have to be, you know, it seems like his only path is via an early finish, which for kind of a lower volume striker, that's kind of harder to do, right? He's not going to come out and just blitz him out of the gate, I don't think. So I'm kind of with you. It seems like a relatively easy fade at 9,100. I mean, I would just way rather pay for some of the, you know, the title fight favorites, basically. So I'm with you there. I think, you know, most people are going to think that way. But still, as a minus 240 favorite, he will have ownership, no doubt about it. Sounds like you and I are kind of on the same page. Maybe go elsewhere ourselves.
So let's remember, this is going back to now we're in the bigger cage. This is a 30-foot cage. I know we fought in the Apex for almost, I don't know.
Was that like 23, 24 feet?
Yeah, it was 23. So 7-foot difference, you know, so there might be more fights going longer and the distance now rather than what we've seen the last, I don't know how many events, two months that we were fighting in UFC Apex.
That's a really good point. And it looks, I mean, the odds, most of these fights are expected to finish inside the distance on this card too. So yeah, that's a really good point. The scores might be low. Yeah, it's really, because there's a lot of killers on this card that are going to be fun fights that you think, but that's a really big difference from the Apex to, especially the fighters that have fought in the Apex, guys. I'm glad you brought that up.
Joey, which style cage do you prefer, just in general?
I mean, if you want more action, you got the smaller cage.
Yeah.
Not much to run around. You can't run away. Can't be a Tyron Woodley. But I guess I'm used to the bigger cage. So I guess I would say in more stylistic, and guys definitely train more likely in the bigger cage. So I mean, but if I had to choose, lock them in a smaller cage, lock them in a 15-foot cage for all I care.
That makes sense. I do think the bigger cage can allow for like more skillful techniques instead of a brawl. So I think like the more creative strikers can sometimes benefit from that because they can, you know, set up I don't know, like bigger combinations, stuff like that. So yeah, I can see either way, but I'm excited to see it in the big cage tonight for sure. Next fight on the card that we'll go to is Dana Baccarel and Kevin Natividad here. Baccarel coming in as a minus 200 favorite. Joey, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so Natividad, you know, he doesn't move a lot. He doesn't throw a lot of volume, but he is pretty durable. And he has stated he's been working on his wrestling. He does have good cardio. He should look to mix in combinations, sprinkling in some takedown attempts. And he's probably the better of the two in the grappling exchanges. Batagirl, he opened at minus 150. Obviously got bet up because it's almost minus 200 now.
Yep.
He hasn't fought that great of competition outside of the UFC. And then in the UFC, he didn't look great in his first fight versus Alatang. Eventually lost via decision. He came back and beat Guido Canetti, who isn't a fighter I'm very high on. He has looked good at times and think he could have success if he could defend some takedowns and keep this fight at range. He should throw the more output of the two fighters, and he probably hits harder as well. I'm not going to lay minus 200, so it's dog or pass for me here. But eventually, I'm basically just off this one as well.
Yeah, Batgirl's been very active in his two fights. He obviously has 1 win, 1 loss. But the strikes landed per minute number is pretty high, despite a relatively low striking accuracy number. So he's throwing a lot of volume. Obviously, you like that title from a DFS perspective for the most part. Your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, Batgirl. I mean, I like this guy. I mean, he just continues to walk you down, and he's got power in his hands. If he keeps this fight on the feet, I mean, we saw Miles John knock out Natividad. Batgirl has a lot more power than Miles John does. So if he keeps this on the feet, which I think he can, he's an athletic guy. I think he can defend some takedowns. I think Natividad is going to start feeling his power. And we talked about how the line's been kept getting steam for Batgirl. Well, the prices on DraftKings and FanDuel come out earlier in the week and they don't adjust. So we have an 8,500 to 7,700 fight where a minus 200 is usually sitting 8,700 to 7,500, something around there. So I think there's value on Batgirl in this fight. It is supposed to go to decision slightly, but I think that Batgirl, if he just keeps it on the feet, keeps walking them down, 15 minutes of power. I mean, he couldn't last Miles John's 15 minutes of power. I don't think he can last Batgirl's. I'm going to be overweight on him at 8,500 in this mid tier. I'm not going to play Natividad just because, I mean, in 150 max, I'm going to get some. In 20 entry max, though, I don't think he wins. And if he does, so Joey, if he wins, you think he gets takedowns, top control, and wins on the ground, right? I take it.
Yes.
So maybe now that I'm going to look into it. Maybe I update. I had him as a fade originally. If his path to victory, we know with DraftKings scoring how much top control matters. And if he gets the top control and a decision win, that could score 85, 90 points with all that wrestling, which is good at 7,700. So I'm going to debate that. Maybe I update the playbook and get a little Natividad instead of fade, but I still like Batgirl in the spot mainly.
Yeah, I like Batgirl here too. Natividad, I mean, he got outstruck and then KO'd in his last fight. Batgirl, I think, has the better striking. So yeah, I kind of like him to finish this one early, maybe, perhaps after a lot of volume. I think that makes some sense. Don't feel overly confident about it, but I don't mind him at 8,500. And yeah, I mean, you make a good point with Natividad. Like, we've seen fighters if they are able to control a fight, with wrestling, that control time adds up quickly, especially if you're landing strikes, right? It's key to, they don't need to be powerful strikes, but you're just throwing them while you're getting the control time, and it adds up in a hurry. I'm sure you've been there where you got the, you're fading that type of fighter, and they're just racking up points, and you're kind of like dreading the final DraftKings update because it's going to be like 130 strikes and like 12 minutes of control time, and they get like 140 points, and you're just like, and they didn't even do that much, right? They weren't like super dominant or anything. In my opinion, just a kind of a flaw in the scoring that I personally don't like, but it is what it is. Everyone's dealing with the same scoring system, so. Just something to keep in mind as we go forward with the rest of this card. All right, let's go to what I think is going to be an interesting one. Pat Sabatini and Tristan Connolly. Sabatini is coming. Is this his UFC debut?
Yeah.
I think it might be.
Yep.
He's been impressive, in my opinion, kind of looking at some of his tape. He did lose 3 fights ago via injury. Did you happen to watch that one, Joe? Do you know what went down there?
Yeah, he dislocated his elbow.
Okay. Well, it was just kind of a fluke thing. It wasn't like a dislocation caused by the other fighter.
It was, but he probably would have won the fight if he didn't dislocate it.
Okay. And other than that, though, he's been impressive. A lot of finishes for him in a number of different ways. So yeah, he's coming in as a pretty big favorite. Sabatini is at minus 240, minus 250-ish. Connolly, the older, more experienced fighter, he's 5 years older. Is he coming down in weight here? Like
Yes.
So was his last fight at 170, and this one is at 145. Do I have that right?
That's right.
Okay, we'll talk a little bit about that, because you don't see that, a 20. What is he going down? Like 3 weight classes, or 2 weight classes, but that's unusual. So talk a little bit about that. What's going on there?
Yeah, so he normally fights at 55, and sometimes like he fought a catch weight at 160 in between there. He hasn't fought since September 2019, and now he's just coming in here. He's an older guy. He's got a lot of tread on the tires. He's thinking that he could just fight at 145 here.
Yeah.
He made the weight, looked all right on the scale.
I thought so too, yep.
But I don't think it's going to really work out in the end.
You're on Sabatini here, because I think this kind of sets up pretty well for him.
Yeah, so basically, Sabatini, this will be his first UFC fight. He was supposed to fight Rafael Alves, who missed weight by 12 pounds when they were scheduled for the debut. But Sabatini's a guy I've seen fight in person multiple times. I actually created his pump-up video in a Dead Serious MMA championship, which was his first pro championship fight.
You're a bona fide Sabatini expert here, so give us
I videotaped the whole thing, whatnot. It's a pro promotion that fights in New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania. So he fought under Dead Serious, like I want to say 4 or 5 times, and I watched him live all those times. And then he went to CFFC, so I've seen him fight a lot of fights. He has won 10 of his 13 pro victories via submission. He's also pretty polished at his stand-up. Both guys are good grapplers, so I think he would prefer Sabatini to keep this fight standing. Tristan Connolly hasn't fought since 2019, as I mentioned, and the last fight was at 170. He hasn't fought at 145 in 5 years. He moved up to 55, fought a catchweight in between, whatnot. Now he's going back down. I can't imagine that will help him in this fight.
Yeah.
He has been training in Extreme Couture in Vegas. He's a guy who always moves forward and is a solid wrestler. He's probably going to try to look and get this fight to the ground. But Connolly's very tough, a vet in the sport. And I think this fight will probably go the distance. So I really do like Sabatini here, but I'm not going to lay the juice for a guy's first UFC fight. So you can either go with double chance, by sub, or by decision, or via just decision at plus 140-ish.
Yeah, Sabatini via decision plus 140 seems pretty tasty to me. Title, your thoughts on this fight? Did they change it all after Joey Werk's in-person breakdown from Sabatini's fights?
I mean, I thought the same thing. I thought Sabatini by decision, and at 8,800, I don't think a decision will be enough unless it is just 13 minutes of control time, which Sabatini, he has good wrestling. He could take this fight to the mat, but like Joey said, that's kind of where Connolly, I think, wants to be as well. So if Sabatini's smart, I mean, he is smart, but if his game plan is just to keep it on the feet, which I think he'll have success on, a 15-minute decision on the feet for Sabatini won't be enough at 8,800. So I'll get some in case he goes to the wrestling. I'm not going to have too much. I like guys in the range more. And as far as Connolly, I'm going to get a little just because he's 7,400. We know he's very, very durable. He has the cardio to go a full 15 minutes, very strong, could come in later in the fight. It's a dog that I think is live, but I think Sabatini by decision is the most likely outcome. I like that plus 140. I'll probably bet it after. As far as DFS, we don't want decisions today on today's card, so It's going to be a fight I'm underweight on, but I do like Sabatini in this one.
Yeah, the 3 for 3 on Sabatini, probably via decision, and not the most interesting fight from a DFS perspective from me in Titletown on that one. Let's go to the next fight. We're starting to get into kind of the guys with some UFC experience here. Brendan Allen and Carl Roberson. Allen coming in as a moderate favorite here, minus 150 to minus 170, depending on what book you look at. Both guys coming off of a loss. Carl Roberson to Vettori, who did he just get confirmed the title fight against Adesanya, I think. So obviously, Vettori's been very, very tough. You can't take too much away from Roberson for that loss. And then Allen, after at least a four-fight win streak, lost to Strickland. So two, I think, very good fighters here. I'm looking forward to this one. Brendan Allen, he's got some impressive jiu-jitsu, some good wrestling. I kind of see him controlling this one in that way. But Joey, interested to hear your thoughts on Carl Roberson and Brendan Allen.
Yeah, so this one's pretty easy to me. If Brendan Allen can successfully get Carl to the ground, he's
going to sub him in the first round, isn't he?
But no, everyone's saying Brendan Allen's going to out-wrestle Carl to death. Come on. Carl's been training with Corey Anderson, my guy, day in, day out on his wrestling, who's known for his wrestling. And I get it. He's been taken down, but by superior fighters. Martin Vettori, Glover Teixeira, they're not on the same level as Brendan Allen. If this fight stays standing, Carl is clearly the better fighter, should piece up Brendan Allen and probably get a finish on the feet. You know, Brendan Allen's standing is not good. He continues to telegraph his shots, both boxing and his wrestling. Yeah, he might get Carl down once, twice maybe, but I don't think he keeps him there. Carl's strong. He's been literally working on his wrestling this whole camp. He's another guy from Jersey. He's a town over from me, so I've seen him fight in person multiple times as well. I mean, we can't forget Kevin Holland. All right, he got Kevin Holland out. Kevin Holland, I wrestled in middle school. I think I could out-wrestle Kevin Holland. Like, it's got to be taken with a grain of salt there. I'm on the dog here. Give me Carl Robinson plus 140.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, is it Roberson? I think his last...
Roberson, it is Roberson.
Yeah, Roberson, his last 3 losses, he's lost 3 of his last 7. All came via first-round submission. That's a little concerning to me, but sounds like you think he can maybe keep this one standing and do damage there. Like you said, tough losses. Vettori, Teixeira, 2 great fighters, top of the heap fighters right there. Title, your thoughts on this one? Because I was kind of leaning Allen. Obviously, Joey's thoughts have me second-guessing that at least a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really good fight to target for DFS. It's one I'm going to have both sides. It's
Agreed,
in the mid-tier, minus 225 to finish. I think it's a clash of styles, like you said earlier. I think if Brendan Allen gets this on the mat, I'm more confident than Joey is. I think he has a lot of success, very heavy on top. I don't think Roberson's as bad on the ground as people are saying. I mean, yeah, Vettori, that's no fluke. But I think Brendan Allen has very good wrestling and is very heavy on top, and I just don't think Roberson would have too much of an answer. So if he gets it there, I think it's a very high score and eventually gets the finish. And if Roberson stuffs the takedowns and keeps it on the feet, I expect him to do what Sean Strickland did and just piece him up and eventually get the finish there. So I love this fight on both sides. I do lean Brendan Allen because of the wrestling, because we know how much better that does score on DraftKings. If he gets 2 takedowns, if he gets a takedown around or he gets him out eventually, stays on top, that's 100 plus, almost guaranteed at 8,400.
Yeah.
Definitely going to have a ton in this fight, though. Clash of styles. Brendan Allen for the wrestling, Roberson on the feet. And I'm just hoping to see a finish in this one in a high scoring DFS match.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Let's go to the next fight on the card. We've got Dwight Grant and Stefan Sakulachier. Grant coming in as a pretty big favorite, sitting around minus 200 in this one. Both guys coming off a loss in their most recent fight. Joe, you have a strong lean on Grant and Sakulachier.
Yeah, so Dwight's a guy who doesn't throw much output. He looks to keep it at distance, land that one big punch. Can he do that here? Of course he can. He had Danny Rodriguez stunned in his last fight, but the ref let it continue, eventually ending in him getting knocked out in the first round. So Grant is not a guy I really like backing at a favorite price, especially not 2-1. And his main path to victory is a standing knockout via, maybe one punch or a couple punch together to knock him out. But Stefan is off 2.5-year layoff, including a steroid suspension. He is a good striker as well. He will have success if he can keep it in the pocket and close the distance. I do expect him to use some of his wrestling too, because he definitely has an advantage there. If Stefan can get it to the ground and get this fight into the later rounds, I think he is live. But end of the day, I just cannot lay minus 200 with Dwight Grant. I just don't have any trust in the guy. I'm basically dog or pass for me, but I'm off this one as well.
This one, yeah, I'm with you. I don't see why this line is so lopsided. It's not, not super lopsided. Minus 200 isn't a huge line, but I kind of see this one as a little bit more of a toss-up than the line would indicate. So I kind of like Stefan as a dog here. I feel like there's kind of a lot of unknowns for Stefan, and it's just a little bit hard for me to kind of project this fight, how it will go down. In those cases, I'm usually kind of going to take the dog because I think this fight could go a number of ways. So, Title, we were talking, we need some underdogs to come through on this fight. Stefan, I assume he's going to be pretty popular as a, not a huge underdog, and he's 7K, which is he's not the cheapest fighter on the card, but I think second cheapest, or third cheapest maybe. So yeah, I'm assuming you're kind of interested in him there. Or your thoughts, tell me if not, but your thoughts overall on this fight.
Yeah, he's the cheapest non-title fight dog on the card. I don't think he's going to be like too insanely popular. I think all these dogs kind of mixed and matched. I mean, people are going to be on Masvidal. People are
like
15
to 20%, something like that.
Yeah, something probably around there, which I'm fine with on this card. But I agree with you guys. Like, I'm not paying $9,200 for Dwight Grant, who throws no volume. Again, he's just like wrong. Yes, he has the power. He could go out and finish it in one punch in 8 seconds and be on the optimal. Is that the likely outcome? No, I'm not paying for him over Usman, over all these guys. So give me the dog at 7K. Yeah, I think Stefan is live, whether it's on the feet, if he can avoid the big shots, or if he gets it on the ground. We need dogs, like we said. He's definitely going to be one I'm not very overweight on. I'm not going to have 50% any dog on this card, but I'm going to rotate a handful of dogs that I think are live, and he's definitely going to be one of them that I'll have some exposure to. So I'm not paying for Grant. I think there's a good spot for Stefan. 7K, it makes your lineup work a lot. So I think that's 3 for 3 on the dog. I like it.
Yeah, hopefully you can come through with that upset victory. Moving toward the main card, just another reminder, guys, please, if you're watching the show, if you're enjoying the content, take the literally 1 second it takes to hit the like button, hit the subscribe. Really does help us out, bringing you these shows, not only this show, but all of our shows each and every day, free of charge on your YouTube channel. Next fight, Randy Brown and Alex Oliveira. Oliveira and a slight underdog here. Brown coming in right around minus 140-ish, minus 150, again, depending on where you look. Again, both fighters coming off a loss, kind of a little bit of a theme for a lot of this card, frankly. So we'll see who goes down in this one. Both fighters been kind of up and down, lost, win, kind of alternating a little bit in their UFC careers. Both guys are veterans of the sport. Both guys pretty well-rounded. You see some decent striking. Both guys can wrestle a little bit, some submissions. So, the line indicates it, and I kind of agree. Seems like a pretty close fight to me. I personally could see this one going either way. Joey, your thoughts on Brown and Oliveira?
Yeah, so rude boy Randy Brown, another guy I watched rise through the local scene. He was beating people up left and right when he came a pro. And he originally made a changeover from boxing to the MMA world. With that said, his boxing translates really well here. He has a reach advantage and about a 5-inch height advantage. He's also, he's a decent wrestler. I'm not really sold on his wrestling, and his grappling has got better over time. Alex Oliveira, he has a lot of tread on those damn tires. He's 32 pro fights deep coming into this fight, and he hasn't impressed me as of late, losing 4 of his last 6. He does have a unique style in the octagon that causes a lot of fighters, to have some problems, but he prefers to stand and strike at range, randomly lunge in, throw strikes. He does have some power for a smaller guy, but I don't think it's enough to catch Randy Brown. End of the day, I do think Randy Brown basically is better everywhere here. So I'm on rude boy Randy Brown, and I'm fine laying the minus 150.
Yeah, glad to hear you have a stronger take than me there, because I like you said, it seems like you think he's just like a little bit better in all areas, but that's a pretty good path to victory. Title, your thoughts on Brown and Oliveira?
I already bet Randy Brown earlier in the week at minus 140. I think this is a clear, one guy's getting better and better every fight. One guy is definitely past his prime. He has 1 round of cardio in him. And I just think Randy Brown is going to piece up Oliveira and probably eventually get the finish too. He's 8,700 on DraftKings. I think he goes completely overlooked in this fight because of the price range. And it's just a small favor to end inside the distance. There's a lot of other bigger inside the distance lines for people that are cheaper that people are going to go to in this range. I'm going to be overweight on Randy Brown. I just think he's way better. Oliveira is shown to gas, and if he gets gas in the 2nd or 3rd round, that could be a big score, a big finish for Randy Brown. So I already bet him. I bet 2 units on him too. I'm going to have him in DFS. Give me Randy Brown in this spot. I feel very good about it.
All right, 2 for 2 from Joey and Titletown on Randy Brown. I guess I'll be joining the Randy Brown trend. Can't go against my boys. We're trying to bring good mojo to the show, so no arguments here. Let's get to the main card. 5 5 good fights, in my opinion. I'm looking forward to all 5 of these. Starts with Anthony Smith and Jimmy Croot. Smith coming out, well, he's coming off a win. He had that brutal fight against Glover Teixeira where, maybe I think the corner should have thrown in the towel, or the ref should have stopped the fight. The fight should have ended sooner than it did. He just took an absolute beating. Didn't look right in his next fight back, but I thought, bounce back. I was kind of, after that second loss to Rakic, I was kind of worried about his career and if he was able to come back from, sometimes you take a beating like he did against Teixeira and it's hard to recover. But he did look good in his last fight against Clark. But tough matchup for him here, in my opinion. Jimmy is just a fantastic wrestler, 12-1. He's 8 years younger than Anthony Smith. 4.3 takedowns per 15 minutes. Good takedown accuracy as well. Scores most of them that he attempts. Decent submission guy. This seems like kind of a jumping board from the UFC that they're setting up for Jimmy here. That's kind of how I see it. Obviously, Anthony Smith has a pretty big name. Jimmy seems like an up-and-coming title contender to me, 4-1 in his last 5. So I kind of like Jimmy in this one. I could see him controlling this fight, getting a lot of control time, a lot of ground and pound, maybe a submission. Interested to hear your thoughts because I kind of like Jimmy here at -200, Joey.
Yeah, so I guess I'm kind of with you. I guess I thought I was higher on Jimmy Croot than most, but it seems like you're into him as well.
Yeah,
he's definitely.
I've been impressed, man. He looks good to me.
Yeah, he definitely dominated his last 2 fights out as well, and he showed his full repertoire. He landed 8 takedowns versus Mikhail Olajaychuk and 1 via Kimura in the first round. Then the last time out, he fought Modestas Bukakis, and where he outstruck him on the feet and knocked him out in the first round.
Yeah.
So, I get those aren't the 2 best of fighters in this weight class. Anthony Smith has definitely fought better competition as of late, but, he has struggled. He coming off a win over Devin Clark, who I think's a fraud. He's definitely, if he could keep this fight standing, I think that'll be his best chance to win this fight.
I'm not even sure he wins the stand-up, though.
Yeah, he might not, but I think that's just his best chance.
For sure. No question about that, but, if you're not sure he can win the stand-up and the other guy's just a monster wrestler, Croot to me seems like a little bit of a locomotive steamroller coming in here. He's finishing fights left and right. Monster wrestler with what seems like developing striking. Man, I really like him to win this one, and I think probably finish Anthony Smith. I like Anthony Smith a lot as a fighter and as a person. I've listened to a lot of interviews with him. He just seems like a thoughtful, cool dude. And, watching him, that Teixeira fight was kind of brutal to watch. Croot is expensive, 8,900. Not as expensive as some. Title, from a DFS perspective, sounds like me and Joey are both on the Croot side of this one. Your thoughts on Croot and Anthony Smith?
Yeah, so I've been Croot. It's the start of the week. I've been all over him in this. But as the days have gone on, there's just something in the back of my head in this fight saying, man, Anthony Smith, he's fought 50 times in the UFC. This is another one of these guys that have just been fighting for almost as long as Jimmy Croot's been around. This guy and we know he's so durable. He is so hard to put out. He's as tough as they come. And it's a 3-round fight. So we need a Jimmy Croot finish at 8,900. I earlier in the week, I thought, I'm with you guys. I think Jimmy Croot's an absolute stud on the feet, on the ground. He has it all. We have seen him get tired as the fight goes on a little bit because he does spend a lot of energy. And in 3-round fights, Anthony Smith's used to 5-round fights against the highest level of competition. I have Anthony Smith as a fade. I think I might get a little bit now just because he is 7,300. On the feet, I think Anthony Smith is very live. I think it's pretty much whichever one connects. They both can go asleep. Anthony Smith definitely has a lot of power in his hands. He's been there, done that. I do agree, Jimmy Croot. I think he should be. I think the line's right, about -200. He has upside. I am worried, though, that Anthony Smith is very durable. If it's a decision win for Croot, I don't think that's enough at 8,900. So I'm going to be pretty close to the field on him, I think. And then I'll probably be pretty close to the field on Anthony Smith, maybe a little lower. It's not a fight I just have a ton of lean on. And there's just something in the back of my head that keeps telling me, man, Anthony Smith, been there, done that. He might show the young buck, teach him a little lesson. So I know he hasn't looked very good as of late. But he's fighting Glover. He's fighting the best of the best. I'm very excited for this fight. I do like Jimmy Croot, but a little hesitancy for me because I do think Anthony Smith is game.
Yeah, the contrast in their fighting records here is funny. Smith 34-16 and Croot 12-1.
Like that is crazy. 50 fights against grown men. You just can't teach ring time like that.
I get where you're coming from with the experience angle, but it's not like Croot's inexperienced. I mean,
no,
he's had, 5 or 6 UFC fights, so
it's something in the back of my. You know what I mean? It's just these guys.
I think there's just kind of like a
Croot's a beast.
Explosiveness advantage here that Smith just doesn't have anymore after all the years. So
I got a question for Joey Werk, and then if you have if you have an opinion on it. So if this fight gets out of the first round, because first round I expect Croot to just come out firing. The later it goes in the second, third round. How do you think this fight looks when it comes to gas tanks, when it comes to keeping up? Do you think Croot still has it? Do you think Smith, he starts taking over there? How do you guys see it if it goes later past the first?
I think it depends on if it's on the ground. If Croot gets this fight to the ground,
it's over.
Anthony Smith's in for a world of hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, and then
that's going to get it to the ground though.
Then it's over.
The first round, if he doesn't go right to the ground, they could possibly stand. He might get clipped, and then be like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. Let's go to the ground. And then Croot's live for submission plus 700. That's he's definitely live there. But if obviously the longer it stays standing, the more Anthony Smith stays in the fight. So we'll see. But I definitely like Croot here.
Yeah, I'm expecting a big score from Croot, whether that's an early finish or a lot of top control time and ground and pound from the top. That's how I see it. I think this line is too short. I think maybe because of the bigger name value, I guess, behind Anthony Smith. So I like Croot at minus 200. I like him to finish, and I'll have him in DFS for sure.
I threw Croot on parlays earlier in the week too, and that's the worst thing that's coming to mind because I'm all over this guy. I think he's a future, is going to be around for a long time, but that's the worst when that thing keeps popping in the back of your head, your subconscious, like, ugh.
Well, you got him on some bets and some parlays. You can put Anthony Smith on some DFS. He hedged a little bit, and it's all good if you're having second thoughts. It happens. Let's go to the next fight, the final fight before we get to the 3 title bouts. Chris Weidman and Uriah Hall, 2 longtime UFC veterans here. Hall coming off victory over Anderson Silva. That was Silva's last UFC fight. Silva, my favorite fighter ever. I've said this before. Forrest Griffin and Anderson Silva in UFC 101 is the fight that kind of got me into the UFC way back in the day. My favorite fight of all time. He'll take on Chris Weidman, who hasn't, he is coming off a win. He was a former, top dude. He beat Silva too, right?
Yep.
Twice?
Yep.
Twice. But kind of fell on some tough times, rebounded well. I don't know about this one. This, for me, by far the least interesting of the 5 fights on the main card. It's like you're shaking your head, Joey. Sounds like you might have a strong opinion on this one. In terms of the Vegas line, Weidman a slight favorite at minus 130.
Yeah, so this is an old-time rematch for people that don't know. These 2 guys fought once for the title in Ring of Combat, and the winner was supposed to go to the UFC. Chris Weidman did win the fight.
How many years ago was that?
Oh, that was over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It has no relevance to today's fight.
No. I just remember because Ring of Combat is like the big it was fighting in Atlantic City. It's a big New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania promotion that, a lot of people in the UFC came through Ring of Combat, including, Frankie Edgar, Corey Anderson, multiple other people. All the guys out of New York from Tiger Showmans came out of there. Shane Burgos, Jimmy Rivera, all those guys fought there. But so Weidman obviously eventually went to the UFC, and then Uriah Hall joined him there as well after a couple more fights in Ring of Combat. But Weidman has moved to the Carolinas, I'm pretty sure. And then he made a gym switch as well with his new location of his home. He has looked slow of late. He was gassed in that last fight versus Omario Medov. He just took him down the 3rd round, sat at him, and got the win. Before that, he lost 5 of his last 6. Obviously, the big names in Dom Reyes, Gegard Mousasi, Yoel Romero, Luke Rockhold. His striking has slowly decreased, and if he can't get a takedown here, he's definitely in for some trouble. But Uriah is another guy. He's hit or miss. I really don't like Backham. He's like the ultimate underachiever.
I also Anderson Silva was like his idol, and he beat him. This seems like kind of almost like a letdown fight for Uriah Hall too, coming off that win
he
over Silva.
continues to let me down. He's the
That's what I'm
ultimate
saying,
underachiever.
yeah.
I remember watching him on the final of the Ultimate Fighter. Right, he ran through that house in the Ultimate Fighter. He goes to the championship and he fights Kelvin Gastelum, and Gastelum he didn't even throw at all, and Gastelum beat him. I mean, that was just so infuriating to watch him fight that fight. I'm like, how the hell is he not? How is he losing this fight? But he didn't want it. You know, he didn't have the urge to win the fight, and he's shown that in multiple fights. And he hasn't beat anyone of notice lately. You know, he beat Anderson Silva, 46 years old, where the UFC had to escort him out because he wanted to fight again. Then a split decision over Anthony Carlos Jr., who hasn't won a fight in the UFC in over 4 years. Bevan Lewis, who was beating Hall in that fight, and then he's got exposed so far in his UFC career, lost the next 3 of 4. I mean, if Uriah keeps this fight standing, close the distance, he could put Weidman down, I guess, with a flurry of punches, but I really don't see it happen. He's going to sit back, be the counter puncher. I mean, this is going to be a boring fight, I think. I'm not betting this fight, but a lean is definitely towards Weidman.
I think Weidman is going to try to use his wrestling here, get this fight to the ground. I think he can probably do it. Like Uriah Hall, like he like you said, he should be better than he is. 3-fight winning streak. I think coming off a win over Anderson Silva, I think I'm guessing the public's kind of overrating Uriah Hall right now. It's easy to overrate him, right? He looks impressive when he's winning, and he's won 3 in a row. So
these two guys have a little bad blood as well. They're both from New York. There was an interview where Uriah Hall saying that Staten Island isn't really New York because he's from upstate, or he's from the city. So they started going at it. And Uriah Hall actually switched camps and moved out to Texas, I want to say, and started training in Texas.
Yeah. Tyler, your thoughts on this one? I'm kind of on the Weidman camp, but I don't love it from a DFS perspective. I could see if Weidman wins this one, some clinch control, maybe some top control, but maybe not a huge volume of striking from either guy. Your thoughts here, Title?
This fight is so tough to break down, like you said. It's a clash of styles. If Weidman gets this fight on the mat, he'll have his way. He'll probably get the finish, or he's going to score well with the top control. Uriah Hall is such a better striker against Weidman's chin. That's very suspect, but Uriah Hall sometimes just doesn't throw. He'll just sit there and stare at you and just wait for a punch to counter punch. And I don't think Weidman's going to try and, why would he try and get in a firefight on the feet with this? So I can see this fight. It could be one of the most boring fights of the card. 2 guys literally just standing each other or in front of each other, staring. If Weidman can't complete the takedown and Hall keeps defending him, like, what's Weidman going to do? He's not going to try and make it a firefight. It could be it's so hard for me to predict this one. And that's why I'm going to be pretty close to the field on both guys. I think I'm going to have more Hall actually in tournaments, because Weidman's going to be a lot higher owned because he's $400 cheaper and he's like a -130 favorite. So everyone's just going to look at that right away and just plug in Weidman, which, he's the better play on paper. But Hall does have, Hall can clip Weidman at any time in this fight and knock him out with one punch, and he'll have less ownership, the $400 more. So I'm going to have more of him in GPPs, just a game theory wise, because it's such a toss-up fight. But I'm going to have a lot of fight fades where I have none of this fight, because there's something in the back of my head in this fight telling me, man, these guys are just going to stare at each other for 15 minutes. The winner's going to score 60 points, and that's not what you want in DFS.
Yeah, I kind of see that going down that way too. Sounds like Joey's mostly on the same page. I do agree with you though, Title, on a DFS game theory perspective, where this fight is Eileen Weidman, so does Joey, but it's kind of somewhat of a toss up. And because Uriah Hall is more expensive as an underdog, no one's going to play him, right? And so this would be one where maybe I bet Weidman and play more Hall in DFS. It's like sometimes that's just the proper plus EV way to go, and this could be one of those rare instances. Let's get to the 3 big fights on the card, the 3 title fights. First one is Valentina Shevchenko and Jessica Andrade. Shevchenko been ruling over the women's division, along with, of course, Amanda Nunes, kind of the 1 and 1A in the women's divisions. Shevchenko 5 fights in a row now. She's won. She's looked fantastic. She did get taken down in her last fight by Jennifer Maia, which could be a potential route to success here for Andrade. But Shevchenko, certainly people are not giving Andrade much of a chance. Shevchenko minus 400 to minus 500, depending where you look. I think that's too high to me. I think, call me crazy, I think Andrade is a little bit of a live dog here. Joey, am I insane for maybe wanting a piece of that plus 400?
No, I don't think so. I mean, the Bullet is a beast. Obviously, she's beat everyone in her path since 2010, except for Amanda Nunes. And if she wins this fight, I think it's time to run it back for a third time. But
I mean, she gave Amanda Nunes good fights for sure.
Absolutely. And she's been a really heavy favorite in every fight since she fought Amanda Nunes. This is the closest line fight in 4 years for Valentina. And she really hasn't fought anyone who could test her after the Joanna fight. You know, she fought Jessica Ide, Liz Carmucci, Caitlin Chukagian, Jennifer Maia. She was minus 700 at least in every one of those fights. She likes to sit back, prefers to counter-strike. She does hit hard, don't get me wrong. More than likely has the better gas tank of the two fighters. But with that said, if anybody could test her, it's going to be Jessica Andrade. She's very strong, great in the pocket. She always keeps moving forward, throws with a lot of power. She could take it to the ground and probably have some success there as well. And if this gets into a pocket boxing match, Andrade could come away with an upset victory here, I think.
Yeah.
With that said, I'm not laying minus 500. Obviously, with Valentina, she is a beast. Don't get me wrong, but I just can't lay the minus 500 for me. So it's dog or pass here.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick in a little sprinkle on Andrade, both in betting wise and in DFS. It's not really a knock on Shevchenko. She's a great fighter. There's no question about it. But some of the fighters that she's faced just kind of didn't have any chance, right? It seemed like that to me coming into the fights. I think Andrade has a chance here. I mean, she's going to be game for this one. I'm not saying she's going to come away with the huge upset victory, but I think Andrade thinks she's going to win this fight, right? She's not going to be scared going in there. She's going to be throwing, and she could, Shevchenko, I think she could potentially get some takedowns here and control Shevchenko a little bit from the top. Like, Shevchenko, the rightful favorite, but Andrade, I mean, she gets a lot of takedowns, right? 3 takedowns per 15 minutes. Shevchenko's been good at defending those, but those were against lesser fighters. So I see Andrade having a legitimate path to success here. She's the more active striker. You could argue she's the better wrestler. I think I would probably argue that, frankly, at least offensively. So I don't know. This line is just way too high for me. Perhaps I'm wrong, and Shevchenko comes away with another dominant victory. But I'm on the Andrade side of this one, just with the giant odds, obviously. Title, your thoughts here?
You guys got me 6 to midnight. Right when this fight was announced over a month ago, I said Andrade is live in this fight. Like she has.
Okay, you're with us. I thought you were going to be all excited that we were on the other side.
No. I've been taking heat for, and anytime you're saying a plus 400 dog is, I'm not saying she's going to win this fight all the time. Yeah. But it's about when she does win the fight, how much more are you going to make than if you go Valentina at 50%. And Andrade is live in this fight. She has the power. She has the power to finish anyone. She is levels above the last 4 opponents Valentina's fought.
100%.
And Maia took a whole round from her. And Maia's nowhere near Andrade. I mean, what happens when this fight goes 2-2? If this fight's 2-2 in the 5th round, Andrade comes out strong, gives Valentina a war, and you get a plus 400 dog 2-2 going in the 5th round. I really like Andrade and GPPs. I'm going to have a lot. I'm going to play Valentina in cash on both sides. She's the biggest dog or the biggest favorite on the card. Like, I'm not going to get cute and do that, but I'll get my exposure to Valentina a lot in cash. I'm going to be underweight Valentina and GPPs. I'm not going to fade Valentina and GPPs. That's just dumb. I think the winner of this fight does score well, but I'm going to be very overweight on Andrade. I think she has the power. I'm not quite sure about the wrestling. I think Valentina still does have a little better wrestling. I think Andrade would rather it stay on the feet mainly, but maybe not. Maybe she can use her top control. I just think this line's way too wide. You get 6,700 for Andrade, or 6,800, or 67 for Andrade, which is the lowest price fighter on the card. We'll get into the next 2 fights, but I like the next 2 favorites in them. And I think that Andrade will probably be the lowest owned of the 3 dogs in the title fights too. So it's all lining up for me. I think Andrade is very game, has the power to finish anybody if she hits you right. I thought she beat Rose Namajunas too. I had a 29-28. I mean, she was coming on in the third round. Rose was wearing that damage. Rose said how hard Andrade hit too. If that fight went another 2 rounds, Andrade was finishing Rose there. There's no question in my mind. She has power. She is so game. I think this line is too wide too. Give me very overweight on Andrade. I'm not saying I'll have 50% GPPs or any of that. She might be 16%. Give me 35%, something like that. I mean, that's overweight. That's leverage. Give me the dog for sure. Don't fade Valentina. We're not saying that. But for one of the chalkiest people, the most expensive fighter, I mean, why it's too easy for me. I agree. I'm very glad you guys agree too. I think Andrade, there's a lot of value there.
Yeah, glad to hear you're on the same train. We'll keep the good mojo going on this one. It's just there's not very many plus 400 fighters that I feel are as live as Andrade.
Yeah,
that's kind of the ultimate point. Again, we're not saying she should be favored. The line should just be lower. Is our point. She has a path to victory clearly. So that's Andrade and Shevchenko. Should be a good one.
People in Discord were like, "Oh, you're disrespecting Valentina." All this. It's like, no, we're not disrespecting. Like, you need to pick dogs and cheap fighters, and this is a very wide line for someone that hasn't fought this level of opponent in the last 4 fights. We all agree, but it's not disrespect to Valentina. She's one of the GOATs.
You look at. I think the line is so wide. Like when a champion wins all these fights in a row, I think people start to think they're invincible.
Yep.
Like, I don't think Shevchenko is an invincible fighter. And you've got Andrade who's 1-2 in her last 3 fights, but like you said, very, very close fight against Rose Namajunas. That one could have gone either way. She lost to Weili Zhang, who's a fantastic fighter herself. And then you look at Shevchenko's schedule, like Andrade has fought tougher fighters than Shevchenko has in these last 3 fights, in my opinion. So there's just a lot going on here, and I'm glad to see you guys are all kind of leaning a close fight here, but perhaps Andrade as a dog pulls this one out and kind of shocks the world. Let's go to 2 fighters that we were just talking about a little bit. Rose Namajunas and Weili Zhang, another title fight here. Zhang, about a -200 favorite. Title, you already said you were on the favorite in this one. I get that. I do like Rose Namajunas as a fighter. I think she is kind of coming into her own a little bit, but I think Zhang is the more explosive of the two. Rose, I mean, I really do like her. I think she's a good strategic fighter, but maybe a little bit outgunned here. Joey, your thoughts on Rose versus Weili Zhang?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. Rose has only lost to Andrade the last 5 years, and it was via, she dropped her on her head. She did come in there and revenge her loss last time out by beating her in the second go round, but obviously that was a very close fight. And then she handily beat Joanna Jędrzejczyk, made her look like an alien. Rose has slowly gotten better. She is strong on her feet, throws a lot of leg kicks. She doesn't check any leg kicks on the defensive end, but she throws a lot herself. I think she's going to have to incorporate her wrestling here and ground game in this fight. Weili hasn't fought in over a year, but she's a great striker for distance, has good power, throws a lot of volume. She's a really good wrestler as well. She averages over a takedown per 3 rounds, 15 minutes. And I think if Rose gets her to the ground, she'll get back up and keep this fight standing for as long as it can. Personally, I like Weili Zhang here as well. I think she probably edges out a decision, maybe finishes her in round 5. But that's where I'm at on this one.
I think this one's going to be close. I think both these fighters are going to land quite a few strikes. I could see takedowns on either side or stuff takedown. I think I'm with you guys. I do think Weili is rightly favored. I think the line's about right. But I wouldn't be shocked if Rose won this fight. I mean, she's a great fighter in her own right. I think it's a little bit closer than the line indicates. Title, sounds like you are more on the Weili Zhang side of this one, though.
I'm on the Weili Zhang side, and it makes it so easy in DFS. Rose is going to be the most popular dog on this card, and it's not going to be close. And I love to hear that. I mean, a lot of people are on Rose all week. Because people feel the need to pick an underdog for the title fights. If you parlay all the favorites in the title fights, it's still plus money. So Vegas thinks one of these dogs are going to win. Obviously, the odds have Rose. I don't know where she wins in this fight. I think Zhang is the way better striker. I think she's getting criminally disrespected on the ground. People are saying if Rose gets it on the ground, she's going to finish it, just destroy her. I don't see that happening. I mean, we haven't had to see Zhang on the ground recently just because she's such a good striker and she keeps it there. I just think, I mean, there's levels to this game. I think Andrade was going to finish Rose. If the fight went to the 4th and 5th round in the last 3-round fight, you could see all the damage she was wearing on her face and she was slowing down. I think Zhang's going to put up that pressure. She's going to just put it on her. I think the first couple rounds are competitive. I mean, Rose is a very good fighter. I'm not trying to disrespect her in that. I just think Weili's she's going to be a champ for a long time. I think maybe another 5, 6. Like, I think she is that dominant. All she does is train MMA. That's literally her only goal, is just to win fights for China. She's the face of the country. I just don't see, I don't know how I would play a chalk Rose as the biggest underdog over someone like Andrade, just going to have 3 less the ownership to go to a game theory perspective. And I think Zhang wins. So I'm going to be very overweight on Zhang. I think she might come in a little lower owned because of how owned Rose will be. Rose might even be more popular, which I think is the case.
I wouldn't be shocked at that at all. Yep.
Yeah. 9,000 to 7,200. You need dogs on this card. I'm going to be very overweight on Zhang. I think she gets the late finish too, whether it's the 4th round, 5th round. I just think she's the better all-around fighter. I'm very happy to hear people on Rose in the industry. I love the cheap price tag. Give me all the Zhang in this one.
Yeah. I think assuming Zhang does come away with this win, whether it's via early finish or even if it goes the distance, she's going to land a lot of volume.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's like almost a near certainty. Again, assuming she wins. Obviously, if she loses, she's probably not going to be, anywhere near the optimal. But
then Rose is optimal. If Rose wins, she's optimal. That's why people are playing her for sure.
No question.
It's a guarantee.
I can get it from both sides. You're saying, you're hoping a lot of people kind of go down with rostering Rose and what we think will be pretty high ownership. Again, a title fight. People want to get the 5 rounds, and Rose is by far according to the odds, the most live dog of the 3 underdogs in title fights. I think almost by definition, we've been playing DFS long enough. We know Rose is going to have high ownership. It's just a fact. Final thoughts on this one, Joey, before we move on to the main event.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that fight for sure. Either or, I think, let's have a double champ belt. Have we ever had that where the 2 champs with the belts fought each other?
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
That would be fun. Like, these girls, especially Andrade, has fought in all 3 divisions, I think. She's the only one that's fought in 15, 25, 35. So, if she wins, she's definitely game to run it with Rose or Weili back. That would be awesome.
Women's MMA is like, I don't even really care about the divisions. It's just like they all move, because there's just not enough, especially at the top of them. Like, most of the fighters can fight in all 3 divisions, like you said. So, I'm looking forward to these 2 women's MMA fights for sure. Should be good ones. We'll see how they go down. Let's go to the main event of the evening, rematch between Kamaru Usman and Jorge Masvidal. These 2 fought in Abu Dhabi, 6-7 months ago, something like that. Maybe a little bit longer.
I believe. I believe.
Yeah. Masvidal took that fight on very, very short notice. 4 or 5 days, something like that? 6 days. So had to, go get the weight cut, fly across the world. And, Usman, I guess, somewhat predictably kind of dominated Masvidal, as he dominates pretty much all his opponents. We've seen Usman kind of rising up the ranks, certainly in terms of the resume of kind of all-time UFC champions. I kind of a little bit, it's starting to wane. At first, I kind of doubted that he was that dominant of a fighter, but man, he improves every time. His striking seems like it's really improving. Working with Trevor Whitman, knocked out Gilbert Burns after a dominant performance. But I'm interested in this one. The betting world certainly not giving Masvidal much of a chance. We're getting Usman around minus 350 to minus 400. I get it. Obviously, the superior wrestler could be the superior striker right now. I think that's up for debate. Masvidal, kind of, a bit of the people's champ, if you will, one of the more popular fighters in the UFC. But this time, Masvidal has had, a full camp to prepare for this one. And I think based on just kind of how everything's gone down, I think a rematch here was kind of basically very likely to happen after Masvidal was willing to take that fight and save the card, right? I think they kind of probably said, assuming you put on a solid fight, you'll get a rematch against Usman down the road. So if that's true, I think it probably is. In that case, he's had 8 months to prepare for Usman, right? If he kind of knew he was going to get, if he was kind of training for this rematch. So I'm interested to see what adjustments Masvidal can make, because he did have some moments in that first fight. He did land 66 strikes. It wasn't like he was completely dominated the entire time. Usman, obviously clear victor. I think he won all 5 rounds against Masvidal in that one. But Joey, I'm interested to hear what you have to say, because Masvidal's not chopped liver. He's a great fighter. He's had time to prepare. He's had a full camp, and I'm interested to see what he can bring to the table here against Kamaru Usman.
Yeah, so I personally think you can make the argument that Masvidal's best chance to beat Usman was on 6 days' notice. I think Usman will do more of the same here. Wear on Masvidal, eventually winning probably in 5 rounds. He should be able to take Jorge down at will still. I don't think he got much better at his wrestling or his wrestling defense in the last 5-6 months.
Why not? Wouldn't he have been working on that for the last 6 months?
But I'm sure he's working on it, but how much better can he get in 6 months, really? I don't know. You can't get to the level that Kamaru Usman's on. But, Masvidal obviously is very excited, and he thinks he's going to win this fight. But, you think you're going to win every fight. He's got 14
Sure.
He's got 14 pro losses. I'm sure he thinks he's going to win all of those. And even Dana White was talking like, hey, after this fight, Colby Covington's going to fight Usman. We had to give Masvidal another chance. Like, he's acting like Usman's already won this fight. Obviously Masvidal, I think his chance is the same as he did in that first fight. He's got to go after him in the first 2 rounds, try to clip him, because we saw Gilbert Burns clip Usman.
Usman does get clipped in almost all his fights. He can just take it, but
Burns hurt him bad.
That's what
I'm saying, man. Like,
he could have, but as time went over, we saw, the longer it goes, you see who the better fighter is, and Usman was clearly the better fighter. And I think the same here. So Masvidal hopefully doesn't gas out like he did in the last fight. He went after him the first 2 rounds, especially the first round, and then gassed, and basically Usman
can't blame him for that, though. He knew he didn't have the gas tank to go 5 rounds. So, of course, it was a proper strategy.
Yeah, and I really do expect, I think that's his best chance to win this one as well. Clip him in the early rounds, try to get a finish. If you can't land a big shot in round 1 or 2, I think he's in for a long decision loss. I think Usman via decision is the play.
Yeah, I get it. My brain says Usman. My heart says Masvidal.
Don't get me wrong. I'm a big Masvidal fan as well. I would love to see him win.
I love Masvidal. But of course, Usman, rightfully the favorite. Title. You're the the more rational mind here. I know you're on the Usman side. You think he's going to probably control this one, right?
I don't even think it's close. But I also will say to start, I would pick multiple guys against Masvidal. I think he's overrated, to be honest. Obviously,
I get that perspective. I really do.
Obviously, that flying knee. He's a great talker. People love him. He reminds me of little Big T. He gets these odds somehow. He gets these odds way closer than they should be, or something. Great talker, but
I didn't come into this show anticipating a Big T Jorge Masvidal comparison, and it took us 80 minutes to get there. But I'm glad we got there eventually.
Yeah, but Usman's way better. Like, I think Burns would beat Masvidal. I think Wonder Boy would beat Masvidal again. And Usman's just in a different level. I could see him. And I don't feel as confident that it is decision too. I think Usman could finish this fight in the 4th or 5th round. Obviously these guys don't like each other. They're talking trash at the press conferences and stuff. If Usman wants to finish someone, he lets it all go. That's a scary man. Masvidal's very, very tough. He's game, but I'm not picking him. I'm going to fade. I'm going to have 0 Masvidal in my 150 lineups on DraftKings. That's how confident I am. He's live to stacking cash games since they do think it's going to go to decision, but I feel very, very good about Usman in this spot. And that's why we come back to the Andrade. I'm not going to play a chalky Rose as a dog because I think she loses. I'm not playing Masvidal. That's where it comes with Andrade. We think she's live. She's going to be low owned. That's why I like her so much. But give me Usman in this fight. I want to see the Kobe Usman fight. I think that's what most people want to see. Masvidal deserves a shot, like you said, though. But I see very much of the same.
Yeah, Big T, we know you're watching. Title, are you and Big T going to run back your MMA head-to-head? Did he had a strategy against you? Did you hear that show? We were talking about it on the baseball show.
well, yeah, we played the last time too. And I understand Big T's thoughts. If you're going to start cash games with 2 losses, he'll play. But then you're expecting to win 4. So, yeah, I'm going to send Big T the 2K head-to-head. Even if I don't stack the cash games in my main lineups, 2 of them, I'll make sure Big T gets his run back 2K head-to-head. I'll stack 2 of them.
He comes in with the advantage because he got to watch this whole show. He knows which fighters you're on, and he can try to.
He reads the playbook. Yeah, he knows exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah, he can. He's got the advantage, but the line is always skewed in Big T. Big talker as he is. Big platoon, as I call him on the baseball streets.
I love it.
All right, guys, that will do it for the show. Thanks for watching. As always, please hit that like, hit that subscribe on your way out. We've got more shows coming up for sure. If you're playing NBA, playing MLB, either this afternoon or tomorrow morning. And the 3 of us will be back for the next pay-per-view card, whenever that may be. Hope you enjoyed the show. Good luck in all your lineups and your bets tonight. Thanks for watching. As always, he's Joey Werk. He's Titletown. I'm Draftcheat. We'll check you next time.
Good luck.